Hello and welcome to episode 22, yes, 2 of the Movie Bros podcast. If you are new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. If you are new, there are 21 episodes prior for you to check out and enjoy. If you are new as well, just as a quick summary, this is where myself, Duncan, and my brother Hayden, say hello.
I'm here. I just don't want to interrupt you. We have a problem with that sometimes. I'm Hayden. Welcome to the podcast.
Um, we are two brothers who watch movies, banter and ramble about those movies, and record it. We are on Spotify, which is most likely where you're finding this podcast, and then we are also on Instagram at the movie_bros, where we post what we're gonna watch, what we just watched, all that jazz. If you have suggestions or comments, complaints, compliments, all of the above, send us a DM, send us a comment, whatever, a 5-star rating, a follow, a subscribe, a hit the bell, all the buzzwords, do the things. More or less, that's what we're about here. With that, folks, should we just kind of get into it, Hayden?
You know what? We've already done all of our analytics talk, so yeah, we've said all of our buzzwords. Let's jump into it. Let's have me run through some fast facts here, and we can jump into some discussion. So this episode, we are talking about Birds of Prey.
Is that the full title?
It's not the full title. We'll get to the full fucking title later. All right. So this episode is about Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn sort of sequel to the unfortunate Suicide Squad from 2016. This is actually from 2020. This is directed by Kathy Yan, and I look what else she had done. This is, for all intents and purposes, her first movie. I couldn't find anything else other than short films. So, that's a double-edged sword. This is written by Christina Hodson. Music is by Daniel Pemberton, who I know a lot of, but I couldn't hear a lot of his personality coming through in this, but that's something we'll get into. Cinematography here is by Matthew Libotek. That's a French name. That's the best you're getting out of me. This stars Margot Robbie, Rosie Perez, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Journey Smollett, Ella J. Basco, Ewan McGregor, and Chris Messina. And then lastly, the trivia here I have for this is that Mary Elizabeth Winstead is actually married to Ewan McGregor. That's all I got.
Okay. Yeah, this was... So, for context, folks, again, if you are new, the previous episode we watched and talked about Evil Dead Rise, definitely a little bit more grittier, less colorful, fun movie. And
Yes.
I think I like the direction that we go where we actually give our ratings first and then explain why. That way people aren't just like, I don't know, confused about where we might be going with this. But what are
Well,
your
we
thoughts
are
on this, Hayden?
technically doing the lead first. It is definitely more common to have the suspension bait at the end of an episode. But I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. It was not the best movie and certainly not the
Three and a
best
half.
superhero. I went into this with very low expectations. I remember this bombing in the theaters. Critics didn't really like it. I had a good time. It is certainly not perfect, and there's enough to knock a star and a half off of this for me. So I didn't love it, but I had a good time. It was fun.
I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. Like, again, not horrible. I would weirdly put it like it is probably the same amount of enjoyment, I guess, as Joker that we just saw, because there are good parts,
Oh no,
but there's a
I
lot
put this
that's
above Joker.
uh agree to disagree.
We definitely will.
So the beginning of this, where it's kind of her, it almost felt like it was like the cartoony bit, just like Joker did at the beginning.
I had that written down, yeah. I think this time it actually makes more sense.
Yes, that's what I said. I was like, it felt like a semi better prologue comparatively to Joker 2. Um, Nothing like the I like the quality of it in Joker, but it didn't. I don't know. It felt
So the
only
animation
there.
is definitely better in Joker 2. Like this is clearly
Yes.
Flash and the other one's definitely hand animated. And both of those are useful for their own things. But I feel like this one makes more sense for her character, for this to be her monologue and the opening titles. It did not make sense for the gritty, you know, Gotham that uh Joaquin Phoenix is
Yes.
supposed to be a part of. It makes a ton more sense for the tone of this movie, where it is nearly a comedy the whole time.
It was, again, nearly a comedy, but again, I don't feel like it was that funny at all.
I don't know. I laughed out loud a whole 2 times probably. I could not tell you what they were, but I know it happened.
She is great as a
Oh,
I feel like that's
she's
kind of an obvious that everyone,
like
even if you don't like the movie, you can still agree that she as Harley Quinn is great.
like she's up there with like Henry Cavill and see I'm just gonna say J. Jonah Jameson because I can't think of his name. These are people who are born to play these roles. Like she
Sure.
is perfect as Harley. Like I genuinely can't imagine anyone else doing it. And now that we've seen Lady Gaga try, we know what that looks like.
Well, it's like I even think of because obviously there's been lots of different Batman and some they're obviously very different takes, but
Hmm.
uh, I I think of like you said, Henry. I think makes a lot of sense for Superman. She makes a lot of sense for Harley Quinn, but I don't know where they're gonna go. Like if they have to cast Wonder Woman, like where what are they gonna do for that? Because I don't know.
um,
I quite liked Gal
I
Gadot, but
I I like Gal Gadot too. I just don't buy her as Wonder Woman because she
oh
doesn't look
really?
strong. Like, I'm not saying I want them to all look like bodybuilders. I think that would be
Wonder
stupid.
Woman
And
never looked like a bodybuilder,
well,
dude.
no,
She
no, but
wasn't
like
big.
she didn't even have noticeable biceps in the movie. Like, again, I'm not asking her to look bulky, but she needs to look even slightly athletic.
Oh,
I don't know. I
either way,
can't think of
that's just a
I
side note. But yes,
I can't think of an actress off the top of my head who I would cast, and I don't envy James Gunn having to do that for any of the roles. But I certainly wouldn't go back to Gal Gadot.
yeah. I mean, I feel like at this point, you have to start fresh.
I mean, just like whenever they decide to do with Batman, I do not envy the role of the person who has to try and cast a Gunverse Batman when we already have the Robert Pattinson Batman, which is really good.
Really
But
good.
like, I again, as a young Batman, I think he's also a pretty perfect casting, and I don't want to try and be the person who has to then age up that role. I think that'd be incredibly difficult.
Agreed. Ramble aside, yes, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, fantastic. I did feel yes, she's perfect as Harley, but I think she's perfect as Harley when she has more like to bounce off of, either like the
Yes,
opposite of her, which
like
is Batman, or if she has like like it just kind of felt weird having her in these ensemble sort of all girl squad.
she is definitely the strongest part of the movie, which makes sense because she's the main character, but you definitely need an equally strong, whether it is a villain or a second chair, you need an equally strong personality to bounce that off of. And Ewan McGregor, as much as I love him in this movie, he's not on screen nearly enough to be that person, although I think he probably could have been.
I do actually really like him in this. I thought it was a great departure from the guy that we all kind of know him as.
I mean, I think one of the first, or not the first thing, because we don't get to know him later, but like both his performance and Margot Robbie's performance carry the whole movie. Like there are other things to like about it, but if they had cast 2 other people, this movie would not had worked even as well as we think it does.
hmm But yes, I could see how if it was more centered on just them and less on everything else,
Yeah, and I
maybe.
mean, we will get to our section towards the end of the podcast where we talk about what we would fix to try and
Sure, sure.
improve our perspective ratings, but I have some ideas in that respect, and it does come down to things like that.
I will say his suits, like he had lots of different dude, all of
Oh, he
his
looks
outfits were
great.
fucking awesome, dude. Like the kind of eccentric but still snazzy kind of look.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember his character well enough from the books. Was he gay in the books?
No, if I remember right, he was like a like I could have sworn he was just like some like a just a mobster
Well, also,
that
if I remember in the books, just because I did some Google searching, like the mask actually like moves, and It's a lot more like the Red Skull.
I barely remember him in the comics. He was never, again, I think that's why he works for this movie, because he was not A tier like Batman villain. He was a like B or C tier villain.
Yeah, but I like the role he plays in this. I just wish it was larger.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
Um, and then the first thing I have written down, I mean, literally first sentence I turned on the movie was like, oh God, what is that title? It just this should have
Yeah.
either been the Harley Quinn movie or it should have been the Birds of Prey movie. It should not be the ridiculous run-on title of Birds of Prey, or in quotation marks, or the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. That's so long. It's such a mouthful, and no one remembers it. Everyone remembers
No,
this
everyone
as the
calls it,
Birds of Prey
it's just
movie.
Birds of Prey. Yes.
Like, and that kind of illustrates which is the better title, because no one remembers the Harley Quinn tagline. It's just the Birds of Prey movie. I wish they would have stuck with that.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've ever seen the like. It's maybe obviously more my humor than yours, but there's a really funny Office bit where Michael is like pretending to like make up a headline for a newspaper, and it just keeps going and going. I'll have to, like, but that's exactly what it made me think of. I was like, oh, someone just like started this, and they're like, oh, let's add on a little more. Oh, let's add on a little more.
I'm more of a Parks and Rec guy myself.
I know. I'm not saying every movie's title needs to be super short and sweet, like, oh, Evil Dead Rise, very short and sweet, or Birds of Prey, or whatever, but it just needs to be
Like,
succinct.
like exact, and it needs to roll off the tongue a lot easier, because something like Birds of Prey or the blah 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 doesn't really work as well when movies that have longer titles like Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. That's a long title, but it works better because I don't know, it makes more sense when I'm saying it. I don't know how else to describe it.
I'll even think of other movies that are maybe not a title and then a subtitle, even just longer, like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, or whatever.
10 Things I Hate About You. Yeah, I mean,
Exactly. It's at least a, like, I don't want to say a coherent sentence, but
I think it's the
it
choice of words, because
maybe
the
that's what it is.
fantabulous emancipation, I, I I get what it's saying. I know what that
Sure.
means. That doesn't really work as a movie title, even if it works for her character.
Speaking of that, speaking of the emancipation bit, so towards the beginning, when she's doing the voiceover, where she's talking about how her and Mr. J are
She
already broken up.
voiceovers the whole movie.
Well, she does, but I'm saying towards the beginning, after she decides to do the big explosion, when
Hmm.
there's there's a few shots in this that is actually like, oh,
Oh, the
this was
chemical plant full of fireworks for no reason.
I mean, yes, but at least there was a few shots that felt like it was on purpose. I never really felt like much of the cinematography was interesting, or
Oh, see, I
I don't know.
disagree. I
Really?
actually
Because again,
I like, so actually I had this written down. I enjoy the color grading and the neon and the pumped up blacks that all this I think this is what the David Ayer Suicide Squad was going for. This just does it better. I think there's lots of scenes that look very nice. I think her on the pier at the end looks very cool with all the
no, I'm
fog.
saying some of it, yes.
I think the whole ending fight scene in like the carnival, that's very cool. It's got all the popping colors, the camera's whooshing all over the place. I think a lot of times it looks very good.
I think they, again, this is just personally, I feel like if David Ayers was like a like 6 and this was like a 7 or an 8, I'm looking for a not like pump it up even, like I want this to be not like over the top, but like Batman
I
Forever, but I'm saying if they're gonna do these crazy, like, stark choices, like, lean into it.
I actually agree with you. I think that would have made
Es
sense for Harley
especially
Quinn,
for her.
because
It's Harley
so much
Quinn.
of it is from her perspective, and something that the James Gunn Suicide Squad does is that there are like two or three times where we go and we see it from Harley's point of view, and there's cartoon characters running around, there's flowers popping up instead of blood. I think that there in some places there is definitely a missed opportunity to go even weirder and even more creative with the visuals, although I do like how they look so far.
Ooh, speaking of, like, from her point of view, the whole dance number scene where she's
Oh,
like,
super weird. Super weird. Take that out.
no,
Take that out.
take that out 100%. Well, I was thinking it's probably in there because I bet they thought it would be good for the trailer when they made it.
And it was,
And it
because I
was.
remember that from the trailer.
I do remember that too. And I even wrote later on, I bet the trailer for this was pretty dope, I bet at the time.
If I remember
But
correctly, it was. And I like that we're talking about this like it came out ages ago. It came out in 2020. It's not that long ago.
a lot can happen in 4 years. But yes, I do remember watching that trailer. I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. Anyway,
Yeah, I agree. I think that they definitely could have just pushed the envelope a little bit more, and it probably would have still been fine.
what did you think of the different characters?
I like them. I think there's too many.
They don't, the whole detective, like there's the 80s
Oh,
power.
get
What
rid of her.
the fuck, dude?
I
Get rid of her.
so she is a comic character, but
Sure, but you don't.
I don't feel like
You
she
don't
helps
need
the
her.
plot.
You don't really need the kid.
No, I think the kid's okay because you still need the
Eh,
whole diamond thing, and you need to have Harley try and like humanize herself and choose to do good. Like that is something that has to happen. So I
yes, but
think the kid character is fine.
I feel like they had more time with the kid than with Harley or Black Mask, though. Like, I get that the kid is there as a catalyst to make all the chicks meet and like have a common goal in mind, but
I think that they
mm,
needed to meet sooner. While I did like this whole thing where it would jump around because it is essentially
oh,
her
I
like
I like that, but then like,
talking to the audience and telling the story and forgetting certain parts and going back. I thought that was fun. That was kind of clever. I wanted them to meet sooner because you don't get any Huntress until the last 40 minutes of the movie.
oh, I mean, honestly, the only like the truly good like actiony like felt like a superhero slash super villain whatever movie was the last 20 minutes when they're at the pier.
Um yes and no.
Like
I mean there are
there was
some
stuff to
other
build up to it, but nothing that was actually felt like, oh, this is a
well,
Birds of
yes,
Prey movie.
that is definitely the payoff for, but I had a fine time enjoying the other plot buildup. You know, you got the fun stuff of Harley in the club being drunk. You have Black Canary doing her thing and kicking people. I don't know. I think there is enough going on so where it is not boring, but I think it is definitely more noticeable towards the end where things actually kick off.
I will say I like her as Harley, but the one time I've seen this in a couple different movies she's been in, but I've found that Margot Robbie does not. Again, this is just personal opinion, but I don't think she knows how to play drunk very well.
I agree.
I did not. I was like, oh, dude, this is rough. When she's talking to Black Canary at the bar.
Hmm. I mean, thankfully that is a short scene, but I don't believe she can play drunk very well either. I also think that her accent in this is a little all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is constantly the like sort of Brooklyn Harley Quinn accent that we want her to be doing, and that's fine. But sometimes it's super strong, and sometimes it's almost not there at all. But it's a little all over the place with that.
I wish they used Black Canary as Black Canary.
It is weird that they waited until quite literally the last possible second for her to do that.
Yeah, I felt like I mean, granted, it's because, well, when she uses it, she passes out or whatever. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, you could have
Then why
used at
have her
least
there at all?
yeah, like at that point, she's just, well, that was something I also wrote down at some point, like the whole ending scene when they are at the pier, without like, without the detective, which again doesn't need to be there. The huntress ran out of her arrows like almost immediately, and Black Canary wasn't using her voice; she was just kicking shit. It was just a bunch of chicks with clubs. Like it didn't really feel like superhero, super villain. Like it
I
felt
don't
like all the
know.
people. It didn't feel super enough for me.
Well, outside of Black Canary, none of them have powers.
Well, no, but like
So
they
I don't
didn't
know
even.
what you're expecting.
It didn't. It just felt like a normal people. I don't know how to explain it. It just didn't feel super to me.
I will say I do feel like this does female superheroes a ton better than Madam Web. And they are kind of similar to where it's a reluctant hero protecting a younger character from a guy who's trying to kill her for like, either monetary and or supernatural gain. I feel like this does it so much better.
I agree. I mean, they are loosely similar.
Loosely, yeah. And if you
Loosely.
want to hear us talk about Madam Web, you have to go back
Oh
2 or 3
boy.
episodes where we have like
Yeah, I think
an
that was
hour-long shit
episode
fest.
20. Yeah, yeah, definitely check that out.
And then the other major thing which dragged me down a couple stars for this for me is it is beyond belief that Batman never shows up.
Oh, right?
Like, I fully understand that at the time this was being made, a lot of things were
They didn't
up
have a
in the
Batman.
air at DC, like office politics wise. So I know why, but they're blowing up huge buildings. There's an army of henchmen in the middle of the night trying to, kill some dudes. Like, it is beyond belief this is taking place in Gotham, and Batman doesn't show up at any point. Like, there's not even an allusion to it. It's very odd.
I think she references Batman once,
I don't remember her.
like literally in passing in a conversation, but that's it.
Oh, maybe. Oh, yes, she does. She says that she got arrested by Batman when she was explaining her backstory to the kid.
As you were saying with the like her jumping around and explaining things and forgetting things, I think they could have done that, but maybe it felt a little choppy, felt a little unorganized, even if it was supposed to be unorganized, if that makes any
I was
sense.
gonna say, I mean, I don't know. That seems kind of like the point. It felt that way on purpose.
But there's a few points where I was like, this doesn't even make fucking sense. And then like 10 minutes later, they'd be like, oh yeah, let's go back and explain that. I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
let's do the rewind again.
I don't know. I didn't mind that because they did then, you know, rewind things in a comedic manner and explain something. I thought that worked out okay.
No, I'm saying I would say if right now it's at 100%, give me it at like 80% or like
Hmm.
75. That's all. The police station scene was fun with the beanbag slash confetti.
Why is she not using a real gun? It's never explained.
See, I feel like that's a more Harley thing to do is to not use a real gun.
You know what? You're right. Actually, that does make more sense. And I would say the explosions of glitter looked pretty cool.
They did look cool, and like the choreography in this movie, both at the police station, on the pier, everything else, it was very nice. It flowed well.
I also I liked most of her outfits too. Like I like that they pretty much did not do any of the classic stuff, and then they still managed to pull together some very obviously Harley Quinn looking stuff. I really liked the art design in this.
Well, several of the costume designs that they did for her, they are from the comics. They're just not the like
Like
very
the classic
classic.
ones we all know.
Yes, like if you look like the kind of almost like confetti like fur coat thing that she's wearing.
Oh, like it's like made out of like caution tape and it goes over her arms. That I'm gonna say that's cool looking.
I think it's from almost like an anime version where she's in Japan. So all
Oh,
this
I'd buy
stuff,
that.
like,
Yeah.
yes, I want. Again, I think this is something we'll talk about at the end, but just more time for Obi-Wan to just be weird. I want it.
I want the movie to open with Obi-Wan. Like
Yes.
I think it needs to be explained where the Joker is because it's never like clearly he's not dead.
Well, no, just explain where the Joker is, but also set him up as more of like an oppressive back. Like he's just kind of this like
Like he is fun,
kind
he's
of he's
flamboyant, he's
fun.
wacky. Like you got the whole scene where he's like cutting people's faces off. That's
Yes.
great and creepy. Like that, I love that. Not like ooh, cutting people's faces off. I like that. I mean, like it worked good for the movie, but I agree that we should have started more with him, and he should have been a larger presence.
Uh, any scene, I think any scene where he is just freaking out, saying "fuck" and throwing pillows, like, oh, I love that.
Oh yeah, where
Um,
the whole thing where he and then also where he's at like just at the club in general and just kind of
oh
losing
yes,
his shit yelling at people.
yes,
That's great.
yes.
And
Um,
where he tries to have a whole villain monologue and she keeps interrupting him.
yes.
I that's one of the parts where I actually was laughing at that. Like that's very funny.
I don't know if you know the lore behind his assistant.
I recognized his name, but I could not think of why.
So he is also just in the gallery of rogues for Batman, Victor Zsasz.
Yeah, like I know that name, but I can't remember why I know his name.
I mean, he was in like the Arkham games, you might probably remember, but yeah, he was just
Oh
a guy who
god,
was
it's
just
been
like,
like 15 years, but yeah.
hey, they're making another one.
That's a legacy item not sure I want them to touch.
We'll see. Um, but he would just have one of those like, oh, he had scars all over him from every kill. That was his like obsession with scarification, blah blah blah. And like,
Mm.
I
Because
think
that
that
fits into
his
all the stuff on his face too.
yes, yeah, and I think it worked okay. The actor who has actually gone on, the actor has done Scorsese stuff. I can't. It's
Mhm.
Chris Moreno or something. His name is
Chris
um
Messina, I think I mentioned him earlier.
Messina. Thank you. He did that Nike Air. I mean, he's done lots of movies. He's a well-known guy.
I mean, he
Um,
was fine in this. I have no problems with it.
I think it was kind of fun for him, and have a kind of a odd, uh, dare I say, relationship.
Uh, so I think both him and Black Mask should have been played a little bit more menacingly and not so
Yes.
much, wink at the camera and make jokes, because there are definitely moments where they come across as imposing, but a lot of the time they aren't. And I kind of wish they leaned a little bit more into these guys are an actual threat and not just fun characters, because Harley Quinn's already, you know, satiating that role of the fun, wacky character in this movie. She needs something a little bit more grounded to bounce off of, and I would have preferred they went more that direction with them.
I mean, I will say though, like when he did get serious, when he had the black mask on, especially when they are down on the pier and everything, like,
Hmm.
well, I felt like they were building to at least him being menacing and imposing.
Um, what do you think about the music in this?
I honestly never really noticed all that much. There's a couple obviously like non-orchestral, like, oh, this is this song that they're using. But
So
otherwise, never really noticed it, to be honest.
there is no orchestral music in this, and that is a style that works well with things like Tarantino and sometimes Guardians of the Galaxy. I really did not enjoy that here. I think that this would have been aided more if they had more of like a classic superhero-ish music, and I think the choice to include like girl power pop songs and rap songs are okay, but don't do the whole movie with it.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. Like, there are a few certain scenes, sure, that works for that, but I definitely agree. Don't do the whole movie that way.
Like
I don't want to say that's
le-
lazy, but like,
it's not
come on.
like so that reminds me of the David Ayer Suicide Squad, and what I think
Well, I don't
there
know
are
if that's
certain
his choices
well,
on that.
you know what, let's just get into that now. I am fully aware that there are conflicting opinions on whether or not that the problems with that version of Suicide Squad are his to bear.
Well, he has
They
literally
might
come out
not
and
be.
said, he's come out and said, he's like, oh, that is not my movie.
And if I made that shitty movie, I would say that too. I'm not saying I don't believe him, because clearly there's some fuckery going on with DC with what they did to Zack Snyder's Justice League before he was able to essentially crowdfund his own version. But
Yeah, and then I mean, they literally had to like clear house. All the top
oh, I know.
executives had to
I
leave.
mean, so while I don't know if I would lay blame solely at David Ayers' feet, because
No,
clearly there is pointing fingers to go around at lots of different people, but just for the sake of clarity, I'm just going to continue to refer to it as the David Ayer Suicide Squad, even though it might not deserve that moniker, but I don't want to get it confused with the good Suicide Squad movie.
I know. I thought the newer one with James Gunn, it was good. I never thought it was. I don't know. It felt very like a slightly more gruesome Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think you and I have talked about how he's good at making one kind of movie.
He is good at making one kind of movie, but I don't know how you do a Suicide Squad movie and have it not feel like that. I don't
Sure,
know of a formula where you make a Suicide Squad movie, you have it rated R, where it doesn't just feel like a gory Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know if there's a way that exists.
maybe, maybe not. Either way,
Um, yeah, so I was saying that I think some of the music choices and then some of the aesthetic choices that I don't particularly like in this are holdovers from the David Ayer Suicide Squad, because she has like a bunch of stupid looking tattoos in this. that are holdovers from that movie. Just like the music choices in the David Ayer Suicide Squad are dumb and they frustrate me, and they're constantly changing it every 5 seconds, and this also does that. And I feel like whether this was in production at the same time when that was done releasing or whatever it may be, those are two of the hangers on from the problems of that movie that work their way into this one.
Totally fair. If you watch the first trailer for like the original Suicide Squad,
Oh, it's very different.
it's so, I mean, and there's different music is what I'm saying, is that's why I think that's what he wanted. And then the newer trailers that came out that were basically like, here's 20 different songs in 2 minutes. And that's what was in the movie. I think, yeah, I don't know if that's, again, I'm not
I
trying to just
mean,
constantly
yeah.
defend the guy, but I
Oh,
felt
I
like
mean,
there was a very,
I've seen some of his other movies and they're very good. Like he
yeah, and
did
I'm like,
a
they are definitely not like whatever the fuck that
oh,
was.
100% not. Like probably his best movie in my opinion is the Jake Gyllenhaal movie End of
End
Watch,
of
which is
Watch,
a
yeah.
very good, very realistic movie about cops and like
Yeah,
warring gang turf. Like
yeah.
that's an excellent movie. It is super gritty, super realistic. Definitely not what his Suicide Squad movie turned into.
Well, just like before that, he did Training Day, and that is very
Oh,
much the same
goddamn,
thing.
you're
Like,
right. Yeah.
really good, not at all like this. So again,
No.
I don't want this to turn into us just talking about that, but I do feel like he probably got
Well,
fucked pretty good on this,
in some ways this is connected to that one, whether
wh-
it
which is
deserves
unfortunate. Yes.
that anchor holding it down or not.
When Ewan McGregor gets pissed at the chick at the club, and he's like, "Dance, Erica." I don't know why that part did make me laugh.
I think it's the lack of music, and I don't know. I cracked up a little bit at that too. It's just I know this is supposed to be like him being menacing. That part didn't come across as well. It just comes across as funny.
Which that also might be the point, because maybe he thinks he's scary and intense when really he's just kind of this like awkward bad
Yeah,
guy.
and I like that that's something that, Harley points out earlier when she's interrupting his, like, pre-planned, like,
Monologue. Yeah.
monologue, and she's like, "No, you're not that intimidating, you just like to talk, you just like outfits." I thought that was an interesting idea for a villain who's trying to prove himself that he
Hmm.
actually is evil and he, deserves to be, someone you should be afraid of.
See, that's where I thought, like, oh, for the first half of the movie, they focus on him trying to be seen as evil, and then finally, halfway through or something, hit a like fuck it moment where he really goes hard and actually is scary and starts wearing the mask all the time, like it's his whole
See,
personality.
I like that, but again, because of the Suicide Squad ties that they had to acknowledge, they weren't going to do that because you have to start the movie explaining why she's not with the Joker. You have to pay off what at least a fraction of the audiences that went to saw this were expecting.
I suppose.
Just some small things that don't have anything to do with anything else. Harley's breakfast sandwich looks amazing. That's essentially what I eat every morning if I had the time to make eggs.
Well,
Like
dude, that's like
I run on breakfast food. That looks so good.
that's the classic. They're doing this whole like New Yorker thing, because that is the thing you get at the local corner bodega. Like that's the thing that
Oh,
every New
kinda,
Yorker
yeah.
talks about. Why was Wong in this as a like? It just seems like such an
As
odd
like
choice.
as like a bit role for a character that didn't need to exist. I don't know.
Yes.
I have no idea. Even if you want to keep in uh Montoya, I believe her name was. Even
Mm-hmm.
if you want that character to stay in, you don't need Ali Wong's character to get her fired, to get her to the pier.
Well, even
Th-
yeah, the
So
whole
much
all of
of
her
the detective
backstory.
storyline, either throw it out or streamline it so much better.
Yes.
The movie always felt like it ground to a halt whenever we
Mm-hmm.
switched to her point of view. And that's another thing that knocked, the rating down for me. It's like you would be having a fun chasing, Harley's running through the streets, she's jumping through cars and, she's hitting people with things, and then oh, we got a freaking flashback to the scene that doesn't matter, and we got to, we had to talk about freaking Montoya's relationship with her boss and her new detective partner. It's like this doesn't help the story, and it doesn't make me care about this character you're trying to introduce.
That's fine. But yes, I agree that Ali Wong is a support character for a support character that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
Again, I feel like I might see if I can get a like screenshot of all the different suit jackets that Ewan McGregor wears. Because again, even like the
Oh, they're
one at
great.
like, well, there's like 3 or 4 at the club. There's the red one with the cool like feathers at the pier. Like,
I
there's so
like
many
that
just
one.
dope fits.
There's like the one where it's got like the
Just saying.
gold pattern that kind of like snakes around one of his arms and then
Yes,
transfers
yes.
onto his driving gloves that he was just wearing at the club for some reason.
Well, and if you look, all his gloves have his like initials embroidered on the top of them. Pretty dope looking. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, Mary Elizabeth Winstead dressed in her huntress outfit. Hell yeah, super hot. Just want to put that out there.
I'm a fan. Again, I feel like they could have utilized, if they got rid of the detective, they could have utilized her more
I
as
think you
Huntress.
get rid of Black Canary, and I think you just have her in it. I think you have her, undercover at the club, working as like a waitress or a dancer or something, because she's still trying to get back to Black Mask and Zaslav, who killed her family. I think it makes her character a lot more interesting if she's there from the get go.
See, I feel like you could, if it's gonna be Birds of Prey, it's not just gonna be the Harley and the Huntress movie.
Oh, that's true. You do need
I
three.
think you have the 3 of them, but I think you literally have just the 3 of them. They all are different parts of the club. See, that's why I don't think you need the kid. I think you have those 3.
But without the kid, how do we steal the diamond to the point where we have a showdown at the pier?
Dude, the diamond is just a shit MacGuffin. Literally a shit MacGuffin.
Okay,
Like,
but you need the shit MacGuffin so that the villain has a reason to want to track down the main character.
I'm just saying, if they can eat, you could have find something else to weave that story together.
Oh, I agree.
Even if it's
I don't know. I want to pick your brain. Tell me what it is you would
okay,
do.
let's have the hyena, Bruce. Uh, yeah. So I mean, boom, right there. Eat the
Actually,
diamond
yeah,
or something.
that is a so much more fun scene because Bruce doesn't really do a whole lot, even though it's a fun callback to the comics. It would make more sense. He eats the diamond, so then he ends up
Yeah,
eating Black Mask at the end.
something. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like
Well, Cassandra
because
Cain is a character in the books.
she is, but
She is also not an Asian, preteen. I don't. There's a lot of race swapping in this movie, and I don't know why. Because I guarantee you could have found a blonde actress to play, Black Canary. You
Black
could have
Canary.
found.
I mean, you could have, yes, but
I don't know. It's just
that one I don't
and
overly
and and
care.
and the actress that they got does fine. Like
Yes,
I
I
don't
agree.
know. As someone who really I'm not a huge, big fan of DC comic storytelling. I think they have probably more striking iconography at sometimes. Why would you change what is such an easily recognizable and marketable formula?
I'm gonna guess she just maybe was a great audition. Who knows?
Possibly so. Again, she's fine in this. I have no complaints. It was
Yeah.
just odd. Also, I love her car. The yellow XJS thing, like the
Oh,
little
the
sports
like
car she has.
kind of shitty Fiat or whatever.
Oh, it's great.
No, that's why it's fun, and I like that it's not a like tricked out like thing.
Yeah.
It's just like a normal person car.
Yeah, the singing and dancing scene, why is it there?
Yeah,
I
cut
mean,
that.
I know it's there for trailers, and it's supposed to be there to show Harley's mental slide a little bit,
Sure.
when she gets slapped. You could have done that in so much more interesting ways, and also it doesn't last that long, so us as the viewer never really get a chance to process what it is we're actually watching. The whole dancing thing is maybe 10-15 seconds. If anything,
Nah,
he slaps her, and then we get a brief moment of everything being the same 2D animated as it was at the beginning, and
I
then
was
she
literally
blinks a
about to
couple
say the exact
times,
same thing.
and then we pull back into like live action. That would be a lot more fun, and it would be a callback to the opening, which I think I would enjoy.
No, I literally thought the exact same thing. What else you got?
Not a whole lot more. I just kind of enjoyed the movie. I didn't. I mean, I guess I probably could have sat there with a more critical eye and picked apart more things that I didn't like, but I just had a good time with it. I like the design for Gotham in this. It in the same way that Battinson's Gotham feels a lot more like a character and less like just color graded
Really?
Chicago.
Because this felt just like a neighborhood in New York. Like,
No, I don't know. I think it especially shows up more towards the pier because
well,
you have,
sure.
like, well, and also, you have the huge gothic, like, chemical plant. I don't know. I like that when it matters for setting the scene and, like, informing the tone, they do go over the top, and they give you more, I guess, dramatic setting. I'm not sure how else to describe it. I like the mix of, like, the first Tim Burton movie is way too, like, comic booky, and it looks very not real. But then the Christopher Nolan Batmans, to me, I never loved Gotham in that because it just looks like New York. I like that this one, as well as Pattinson's, is a good mix.
Oh, I agree with both Tim Burton and Christian Bale stuff, and about Robert Pattinson. But I don't know. I felt like a lot of this movie was focused on not the pier was not in it that much. Most of it was
So
just it felt like a Brooklyn neighborhood.
lots of this movie takes place indoors. I would say there's not a whole lot of
Also true.
outside shots. So I think that may I think that might be why you feel that way, but I think for the outside shots that we do get, I think it does look like that nice mix I was talking about. And then kind of the couple ending thoughts I have here is that I'm disappointed that we are never going to see this timeline continue.
Yes and
Just in
no.
general, because I think with this movie, it proves that if you want to put in a little bit more effort and you want to have a little bit less studio control and oversight, you can get good things out of, the David Ayer Suicide Squad setup. Like, if I had my way to rewrite the end of this movie, you don't kill Black Mask off. You simply throw him in the water. You have Batman show up, keeps her from killing him,
Hmm.
gives some kind of short monologue about how, oh, you've changed as a person and yada 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 yada, takes him off to jail, and then she rides off into the sunset with the kid. So you have more opportunities to use him again in other movies. I think killing him off, I don't know. I would prefer to see him return. I would love to see the Black Canary return. I'd like to see Huntress return. And it's disappointing that with the restructuring that James Gunn is doing for good reasons, but we will probably never see them return.
Yes, I agree. I will say I thought the death of Ewan McGregor in this was kind of
Oh, it's too
quick.
sudden.
It was very sudden. Yeah, I felt like they could have done at least a little bit more for that, if I'm honest. Like,
Like, I get the callback to the, oh, the kids stealing grenades. Sure, fine,
sure,
we can blow him up, but, like, give it that
it was
visual pop. Have them
yeah.
explode into, like, animated confetti, or have the blood look like neon as it splatters everywhere. I think for
Well,
the other visual flares this movie does, that was kind of a missed opportunity.
it was a blow up, his chunks hitting the water, and then they're like, "Oh, all right, he's dead. That's it." Like, there was never even like a second or two of like impact kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I would change the ending if I could.
Sure, sure.
I would also, I think, change the beginning, because I would not even harken back to the Suicide Squad movie. I would just say that they broke up and then you move on with your life.
Yeah, I would pretty much have this be as standalone as possible. Like, really, all you need to know is that she's Harley Quinn.
Yeah, like the middle 3/5 of this movie is where it's firing all on all cylinders, and it's working the best. It's the beginning and the very ending that don't really fit together as well as far as puzzle pieces go.
Well, I think that's everything we have.
No, I know. I mean, that's pretty much it. I
Okay.
enjoyed this movie a lot. I don't know if I would certainly not buy it, but if it was like, if I was at work and it was on TV, I'd stay around and I'd watch it or something. I wouldn't seek it out, but I had a good time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. I wouldn't say it's a great movie. It was fine. There are parts that I liked. Obviously, there are plenty of parts that I think could have been maybe improved upon. Uh, but obviously, if you're listening, folks, watch it and make your own decisions, and then tell us about those decisions. So, folks, we have already spun our picker wheel, our randomizer wheel, our wacky wheel, as you might call it. And for next week's episode, so again, so you know what to tune in for. This week was Birds of Prey, and next week it is Tales from Earthsea. And if you have no idea what this is, well, you're not alone, because I have no idea what this is either. Hayden, why
Um,
don't you take that?
so this was a pick of mine that I added into the randomizer wheel. I have also never watched this, but I know of it by reputation and its proximity to the Ghibli movies. It's the same kind of a thing with that. And also, I like swords and sorcery. It's got a big scaly dragon on the front and a dude with a sword. I'm already sat. I'm already here for it, even if it's stupid.
We'll
It,
see.
it'll
I
it,
mean,
even if it is dated because it is certainly from the 80s, but that animation company obviously puts out good stuff. I'm sure it'll look visually very interesting.
so tune in for that for next week. And then just to kind of keep you all informed as a heads up, we'll talk about it probably this episode and next on Thanksgiving. Again, we are keeping with our holiday tradition of posting a holiday theme episode. So last month we did Halloween, which was Scooby
Scooby
Doo
Doo
and Scary
and Scary
Stories to Tell in the
Stories.
Dark. Yep. This month, Hayden, we are going to be doing which movies for Thanksgiving?
We had a small talk about, okay, what's something that feels or really talks about the themes of Thanksgiving, of family, of, also what's very orange and has lots to do with food. So it came up with Fantastic Mr. Fox and Knives Out.
So if you haven't seen those yet, you have, I think, like 2.5 weeks or so at this point. I can't remember where we're at in the month, but you've got plenty of time to. Oh, actually, by the time this gets posted, you'll have, about 2 weeks to watch those before you'll hear an episode about them. Again, that'll probably be on the actual day of Thanksgiving. It will post it. It'll most likely be a longer episode since we're talking about two movies, so look for something between probably an hour to 2 hours. Just so it's a heads up, we'll also post that on our Instagram as well as Spotify.
And then to end out this episode, why don't we do some icebreaker audio?
And if you are new folks, Icebreaker Audio, which Hayden refers to, is of course where we want to make sure you know us as people, not just as voices in your ears. So we just, each week, either Hayden or myself pick a kind of generic icebreaker question you might find on Google or you might hear in a classroom or in a new job, whatever it is, and we answer it. That way you kind of get to know us as individuals. This week, it's my turn to ask, and again, I'm just kind of picking randomly. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
Okay, can I cheat and say like chicken because you can make it into a bunch of things, or does it have to be a dish?
I'm just saying one food, however you want to say it, however you want to
Hmm.
interpret that.
I'm gonna go eggs
Ugh,
because okay, hear me out. They can be
disgusting.
made. So actually, no. I'm changing my answer. I'm going potatoes because you
Jesus
can
Christ,
do.
dude.
Well, no, because you can make hash browns, you can
Well,
make fries, you can make mashed potatoes, you can make so many things with
granted, I
potatoes.
was going to say potatoes too, actually, to be
You
honest.
don't be giving me shit if you're gonna use my answers.
It was less of giving you shit for the answer, more like just pick one answer, dude.
I'm sticking with potatoes. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. Simply because they are
Okay,
so versatile and
they are.
there is nothing. I can't think of a single potato recipe that is bad.
Well, hold
Like
on.
potato
Let me
skins
hold on.
grilled. Oh, super good.
Let me ask you this: regular fry or crinkle cut fry?
Ooh.
This is going to be a
Unseasoned or
bracket. Don't
just
worry.
unseasoned or
Regular
just
like
salt?
salt.
I I don't know. I think it depends where you get them. Because I was
No,
at hockey yesterday.
don't think. Just answer.
Hey, I'm good at not thinking. It's my best quality. Crinkle cut because they're more fun.
Okay, crinkle cut or waffle. Don't think. Answer.
Waffle because I don't get them as
Waff
often.
waffle or tater tot.
Ah, it's too different.
They're both potato, dude. They're both basically a fry.
Uh, okay, that one's hard. Um, but tater tot.
Okay, I'm trying to think of other ones that go up against tater tot. Tater tot or well, I would probably say tater tot. Actually,
Well,
no.
no, no.
I would say shredded hash browns are my favorite.
You didn't give me that as an option
I
yet.
didn't think of it yet.
But yes, shredded
Okay.
hash browns are very good.
Would you do shredded? Would you do the little cubes? Would you do like a more like
I
red potato dice, like a country-style hash.
Oh, those are good. I'm gonna go with the cubed though, because you can like mix that in with the eggs, and you can put in there, and they're better at soaking up like syrup and whatnot and things like that. I'm gonna go with cubed.
See, what I do is I'll cook the bacon, then I use a little bit of the bacon grease to cook the hash brown, which then they get that really good golden on them. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
plus a little syrup, and then I also put a little Tabasco on there.
Oh
Bruh.
yeah, absolutely. Um, what I do is that I'll cook either my bacon or my breakfast sausage, whatever I happen to have. Then I'll use my cast iron that I just used there, since it already has the grease. I'll cook um, the hash browns in that, and then I'll put the eggs into that, and I'll usually have either um, some little mini bell peppers cut up into it, or I will put some franks on everything.
You are a big Frank's guy, I do know that.
I am it. I've yet to find something that it's not good in. I've even had it in a cup noodle soup, and it dissolves, and it's spicy, and it's very good.
Ugh. Okay, alright. Either way, I think that's roughly our icebreaker audio. It's usually supposed to be a quick one. I think we had similar answers for at least the sort of cheat
Hey,
answer
we love
of
potatoes here. What can we say?
we do love potatoes. Yeah. If there's anything you've watched or looking forward to watch in the coming week or so, besides Tales from Mercy.
I haven't had the time to really watch anything recently. I'm looking forward to Elevation with Anthony Mackie. Came out last weekend. I didn't have the time to get out to a theater to watch it. If there's a cheap showing, I'd like to see that. I like me some monster based science fiction, and Anthony
It
Mackie
looks
is not the worst thing
interesting
in the
enough.
world. Yeah, it. I've seen lots of people compare it to like a more actiony Quiet Place. So I'm down for that kind of a bag.
Sure, sure.
I also bought myself a copy because it was on sale of Far from the Madding Crowd with Carrie Mulligan and a whole bunch of other people. It's a really great period romantic movie. I love it a lot. So when that gets to my apartment, I will probably make an evening out of watching that on the couch.
Never heard of it, but all right.
You might actually like it.
Okay. All
I don't
right.
know. I mean, you said you like romance movies, right?
It's depending on the romance movie, but yes.
It doesn't end in a depressing scene, so you might not be into it.
It doesn't have to end in depression, but like no, there's
Oh, but
there's
it
a certain amount
helps?
of no, I'm just saying like there's a certain amount of cheesy, corny, like early 2000s, 90s rom-com that I have no interest in.
Oh, no, no, but this is, like, 2010s or so, and it's set in, like, Edwardian England, so it's very much not that.
Okay, well, maybe I'll look into it.
Well, Duncan, what are you looking forward to watching or have watched recently?
Well, Hayden, since you asked so politely, so for context, I recently canceled my subscription to Paramount Plus because again, it was only a couple bucks a month, but I don't really use it. Then I realized I have never seen any of these Star Trek movies,
Oh,
and
good, you
my
got some quality.
some. Uh,
Some of them.
so my subscription ends in 2 days. So the last several days, I have been binge. I think I've watched like 8 Star Trek movies.
Nice.
The first one is meh. The second one, Wrath of Khan, is actually really good.
Oh, Wrath of Khan's
Uh,
a classic for a reason.
yeah, it's fucking dope. Um, 3, 4, 5, and 6 kind of meh. Then they
They
do
get
like a
kinda goofy after that.
then they do a kind of crossover episode called Star Trek Generations, which is a
Oh, yeah,
Picard and Shatner.
yeah, and they go horseback riding for some
Eh,
reason.
It could they didn't have enough crossover. Like it's the first 20 minutes is Shatner, and then most of the rest is just Picard. Uh, then I watched First Contact last night.
That's a
Great
great
movie.
movie.
That's actually really good. The next one I think is Insurrection, which not many people know about. And then after that is Nemesis with Tom Hardy.
Insurrection's okay. Nemesis is goofy and stupid, but it's fun.
I'm just binging quickly through those before my subscription runs out. Other than that, I rewatched Dead Poet Society because one of my friends had never seen it.
That's a good movie.
It's
It's a sad
it's
movie.
I really like that. Actually, I find Good Will Hunting to be more sad than Dead Poet Society.
I think Good Will Hunting is more sad all the way through. It's just the ending of Dead Poet Society to
That's
me,
true.
I think, is
Oh yeah.
more of the gut punch.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Like,
But
it's definitely a great movie, but like, you just feel drained after you finish it.
since I saw that, I was like, okay, Robin Williams is kind of fantastic. I haven't seen Good Morning Vietnam, so I rented that, so I'm gonna probably
Oh,
see
that's
that.
great.
So that's sitting on my desk from the
Again,
library. I've
um,
never seen it. I don't know.
great movie, funny movie. Also becomes serious towards the end with some gut punches. So just look forward
Lovely.
to that. And it's really good. Just like he's in a movie with Robert De Niro where he's playing a doctor for
Yes.
people with
Yes.
dementia
No, I
called
know which one you're talking about.
Awakenings, which
Yes.
is also it's a good movie. It's a sad movie, but it's a good movie though.
I watched a movie just before we started this recording with my roommates, Hayden, that have you heard? I don't know if you know which one I'm about to talk about, but this is one of the most insane movie concepts I've ever seen. I can't believe it was greenlit. I can't
What is
believe
it
it
called?
actually.
Is this the um post-apocalyptic musical with
No,
Tilda Swinton?
no. Got any other guesses?
Well, you've only given me it's an insane movie concept, so
Okay.
no.
It's the early 2000s.
That's always a bad sign.
It's Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, it's always a bad sign.
Well, at the time
In
he
the
was
early
like the
2000s? Yes.
he was the rom-com guy at the time.
Yeah.
But it's him.
Is this
It's
failure
Gary.
to launch?
Just listen. It's Gary Oldman. It's Peter Dinklage.
Okay.
Kate Beckinsale.
Nice.
Here's the concept. Matthew McConaughey is engaged to marry Kate Beckinsale, and he hasn't had her met his family yet because his entire family, except for him, are midgets.
What?
And she doesn't know.
What was this called?
It's called Tiptoes.
I've never heard of
And
this.
do you want to hear something that's even better?
Sure.
Gary Oldman is his brother in it, who is
Right.
his twin brother, and again, he's a midget.
They don't look as they don't
just
look
listen.
anything alike.
A, they don't look alike, and B, the entire movie, the camera shots are all based. So Gary Oldman is on his knees pretending to be a midget the entire movie.
You could never make this today.
Yeah, definitely not. Or there's shots where Gary Oldman is quote unquote sitting on the couch, and it's clearly like his body is in the couch, and he's got fake legs sticking out the front.
I'm just gonna Google this because this sounds like
Dude,
a fever dream.
The trailer looks like it
Tiptoes 2003.
Yes. You'd think the trailer is a SNL sketch. It's crazy.
Rated a 4.2 out of 10 on IMDb. Yeah, it sounds like it.
Oh no, dude, there's some wild like scenes and lines in this that I like
how
wild.
even the description on here tries to not mention that it's about midgets. It just says the story of a peculiar love triangle involving two brothers.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
No, I honestly, dude, it's one of those like it's ridiculous, stupid fun, and I would recommend it. I would never rewatch it. I would not rate it highly, but it's fun.
Okay, so here's the plot synopsis. Two brothers, a dwarf and one of typical size. When Steve's girlfriend Carol becomes pregnant, the pair are fearful that the baby will inherit the dwarfism gene. Matters are complicated still further when she finds herself falling for the dwarf brother. That sounds ridiculous.
Ridiculous, but also her falling for the dwarf brother is in the last 10 minutes.
Of course it is.
Like everything else is just wild midget stuff.
It's so 2003.
I was reading into like the release of it, and supposedly it was supposed to be as like a spreading awareness about the like dwarf culture, and it definitely did not come off that way.
And that's how they chose to do it.
Well, apparently, so the director was fired.
Right.
Hold on, the director was fired before they released it, and then they recut it.
Oh, that's always a good sign.
The recut version had terrible reviews, multiple of the stars, including Peter Dinklage, which is like the only actual midget in it, said, "Oh, the director's cut was much better. Like this is just like cutesy midget porn."
It's not a sentence I ever want to hear again.
Oh, dude, there's a couple lines in this where I'm like, "Oh," like they talk about dude, like Matthew McConaughey is in bed with Kate Beckinsale, and they're talking about midget circle jerks. Wild,
I don't. Okay, let's end the episode. I don't
wild.
want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about
Anyways,
that.
that's what I watched.
Well, since I have IMDb up and it's giving me some, here are things coming out soon. How do we
Sure.
feel about Red One?
Oh, looks terrible. Looks awful. Looks bad.
Yep, I agree. It looks terrible. How do we feel about Moana 2?
I don't really care at all
Yeah,
in the
I
slightest.
also agree. It does. I could not care.
Maybe if I,
Um,
had young kids, but I don't, so I don't care.
maybe. Gladiator 2?
I've been hearing a lot of the people are saying it's really good. Some people are saying not so much, but generally, like, the consensus is the reviews are good.
I might go in with low expectations just because I hold the first one in such high esteem, but I've also
Sure.
heard that it is fairly enjoyable, if maybe a little allergic to actual history.
What I've heard is the first half of it or so is almost a redo of the first story, as him as a slave becomes a gladiator kind of thing.
Oh, why do that?
Well, hold on, and then
That
I found
yeah.
the second half is its own thing, which I like.
Okay. Do we have any opinions at all on Wicked?
I'm not pro, I'm just not against. I don't know, it's just not really
It is
something I
both
care about.
obviously not directed at us, but
Sure.
also I guess I would just say, why is it being split into two? That just seems weird.
I mean, I think they're gonna sell tickets for both. I think it'll do well.
I'm sure there is an audience for it. I just know I'm not a part of it.
I do want to see, I don't remember
The
when it comes out, but the Jesse Eisenberg one.
I believe it was out and gone from theaters because it was a limited release, but I also would like to watch that.
I don't think it's gone to theaters yet. I thought it was on like November 25th or something, or like the
Oh, maybe I'm
15th.
wrong. But isn't that called A Real Pain?
Yes, that's what it is. It's two brothers just traveling around Europe. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, how about Mufasa, The Lion King?
Money grab, don't care. Next.
Yeah, in fact, I'm actually, as someone who grew up with the original Lion King, this is a little bit insulting to me. Um, Sonic 3, I'm gonna go out and watch
Don't
it
care.
because I enjoyed the other two, even though I know they are extremely flawed. I will probably go watch this. Um, that's kind of it for the upcoming movies, as far as this is giving me.
That's fine. Yeah. All right, folks, that was episode 22 of the Movie Bros podcast. Thanks for listening. If you are new, check out the first 21 episodes. They are lots of fun. There's lots of different movies for you to listen to and kind of digest and maybe check out your own.
I think by now we've covered nearly every genre outside of maybe Western, but I'm sure we'll get to that eventually.
We did Rango. That's almost a Western.
Oh, that's very true. And also, we
We
did
should
True History of the Kelly Gang.
exactly. Actually, I think maybe part of the next episode after Tales from Earthsea, we should actually sit down and see if which kind of genres we have or haven't covered yet, because I would like
I
to
think
kind of
that'd be
have a
fun.
broad coverage. Yeah. Okay. Um. So again, folks, you can find us on Spotify, Instagram. Check out Tales from Earthsea next week, and in a couple weeks, listen for Fantastic Mr. Fox / Knives Out for Thanksgiving.